Breaking news for Iraqi Dinar watchers. The 3.90 IQD rate is once again becoming a major topic of discussion across the RV community. But before anyone gets excited, there is one very important question we need to answer. Is $3.90 an actual rate, or is it simply another number being discussed as a possible future scenario? Because those two things are completely different. Today, we're going to break down the truth behind the possible $3.90 Iraqi dinar rate, what the current evidence actually shows, what Iraq is doing with its banking system, and what would have to happen before a number anywhere near $3.90 could become official. Let's start with the most important fact. There is currently no official evidence from the Central Bank of Iraq confirming a $3.90 exchange rate for the Iraqi dinar. The central bank's published exchange rate information continues to show the US dollar at approximately 1,310 Iraqi dinars per dollar in its official listings. That means the $3.90 figure should not be presented as today's official exchange rate. Instead, it should be treated as a hypothetical or speculative RV scenario. And that distinction is extremely important. Because when a number like $3.90 starts circulating online, people can easily assume that the central bank has already approved it. But a number appearing in an RV video, social media post, screenshot, or online discussion does not make it official. For a genuine exchange rate change, we would need an official announcement, an official policy decision, and corresponding changes across the financial system. So why is $3.90 being discussed at all? The reason is that Iraq's financial system is undergoing significant reforms. The central bank has been working on banking sector modernization, stronger governance, compliance, transparency, financial stability, and greater integration with the international financial system. The CBI's official news and reform materials show that banking reform remains an active priority in 2026. +1. And this is where the $3.90 discussion becomes interesting. Some RV watchers believe that as Iraq strengthens its financial infrastructure, the country could eventually have more flexibility in managing the dinar. But there is a major difference between saying that financial reforms could create a stronger foundation and saying that the dinar is guaranteed to reach $3.90. The first is an economic possibility. The second is an unconfirmed prediction. And we have to keep those separate. Now let's imagine what a $3.90 rate would actually mean. At approximately 1,310 dinars per US dollar, the current official rate is nowhere near $3.90 per dinar. So a move to $3.90 would not be a small adjustment. It would represent an enormous change in the value relationship between the Iraqi dinar and the US dollar. That would have major consequences. Prices, imports, exports, government finances, banking systems, foreign investment, international trade, and the purchasing power of Iraqi citizens. This is why a rate like $3.90 cannot simply appear because people online believe Iraq is ready. There would have to be a major monetary policy decision behind it. And the central bank would have to consider the consequences very carefully. One of the biggest questions would be inflation. If the dinar became dramatically stronger, imported goods could become cheaper in dinar terms. That might sound positive, but the broader economic consequences would depend on how the change was implemented and how businesses, consumers, and government finances responded. Another issue would be Iraq's exports. Iraq's economy is heavily connected to oil. Oil revenue is extremely important to government finances and the country's foreign exchange position. That means the exchange rate interacts with the broader oil economy. If the dinar appreciated dramatically, the domestic value of foreign currency oil revenues would change. That could have consequences for government budgets and spending. So again, the $3.90 question is much bigger than a single number. It is really a question about Iraq's entire monetary and economic framework. And that is why we should be watching the central bank instead of relying on rumors. Now let's talk about the banking reform itself. This is one of the strongest real developments behind the current IQD discussion. Iraq has been pushing banks toward stronger compliance standards, improved governance, greater transparency, and better institutional performance. The central bank has described a multi-stage reform process designed to modernize the country's banking sector. That is significant, Because a currency does not operate by itself. It operates through banks. People deposit the currency in banks. Businesses receive payments through banks. International transactions move through banks. Government financial operations depend on banks. And increasingly, digital payments are becoming part of the financial system. So if Iraq successfully modernizes its banking sector, it could create a much stronger foundation for the country's financial future. But once again, banking reform does not automatically equal a $3.90 RV. That is one of the biggest misunderstandings in the RV community. Banking reform can happen without a currency revaluation. Digital payment expansion can happen without a currency revaluation. International banking integration can happen without a currency revaluation. And stronger financial regulation can happen without a currency revaluation. These developments can support the broader financial system, but the exchange rate decision remains a separate matter. Now let's talk about international integration. Iraq has been working to strengthen its connection with the global financial system. That means improving compliance, strengthening correspondent banking relationships, and making Iraqi financial institutions more compatible with international standards. This is important because stronger international connections can make legitimate cross-border transactions more efficient. It can also improve confidence in Iraq's banking sector. But again, this does not automatically mean the dinar will be worth $3.90. It simply means the financial infrastructure is becoming more modern. And honestly, that may be the more important story to watch. Because major monetary changes require a strong financial system capable of handling them. If Iraq wants a more internationally integrated economy, its banks need to be ready. Its payment systems need to be ready. Its regulations need to be ready. Its financial institutions need to be ready. And that is exactly why banking reform matters. Now here's where the $3.90 speculation becomes especially interesting. Some people argue that Iraq could eventually move toward a much stronger exchange rate after completing its financial reforms. But there is no official formula saying, complete banking reform and the dinar becomes $3.90. No such automatic formula exists. The central bank would still have to make an independent monetary policy decision. It would have to evaluate inflation, foreign exchange reserves, government finances, oil revenues, imports, exports, banking liquidity, economic growth, and financial stability. All of these factors matter. So if you see someone online claiming that $3.90 is guaranteed because Iraq has completed a particular banking reform, be careful. The reform may be real. The conclusion may not be. This is why we need to separate evidence from interpretation. The evidence shows that Iraq is continuing financial and banking reforms. The interpretation is that these reforms could eventually support a stronger monetary environment. The speculation is that the dinar could reach $3.90. And the confirmed fact would only exist if the central bank officially implemented that rate. Those are four different levels. And keeping them separate protects viewers from misinformation. Now let's talk about what a genuine RV announcement would look like. If the central bank decided to make a dramatic exchange rate change, we would expect official documentation. We would expect the official exchange rate information to change. Banks would have to update their systems. Financial institutions would receive instructions. Currency dealers would have to adjust their pricing. Government financial systems would need to respond. And the international financial community would notice. In other words, a real $3.90 exchange rate would be extremely difficult to hide. It would not need to depend on a single anonymous source. It would not need a leaked screenshot to prove its existence. The official financial system itself would reveal the change. And that's why IQD holders should always ask, where is the official CBI evidence? If there is no official announcement, then $3.90 remains a possible scenario, not a confirmed rate. Now let's consider another important possibility. What if Iraq continues reforming but never moves to $3.90? That is entirely possible. A country can modernize its banking system without dramatically changing its exchange rate. It can improve digital payments. It can strengthen financial institutions. It can increase international banking connections. It can improve compliance. And it can maintain exchange rate stability. In fact, the central bank's public materials continue to emphasize financial stability and banking reform. So we should not assume that every reform is a hidden signal for an immediate RV. The reforms should be evaluated on their own merits. Now, could a much stronger dinar theoretically happen in the future? Yes, currencies can appreciate when economic and monetary conditions support it. But the size and speed of such an appreciation depend on policy. And $3.90 would be an extraordinary scenario compared with the current official rate. That is why we should treat it as a hypothetical possibility rather than a prediction. So what should IQD holders watch next? First, watch the central bank's official announcements. Second, watch the official exchange rate tables. Third, watch banking sector reform milestones. Fourth, watch Iraq's international financial integration. Fifth, watch digital payment expansion. And sixth, watch the country's broader economic conditions. These indicators will tell us much more than a viral headline. If the central bank ever changes its exchange rate policy, that will be the moment to pay attention. Until then, the $3.90 figure remains speculation. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It simply means we have to be honest about what we know and what we don't know. The Iraqi dinar story in 2026 is still developing. Iraq is modernizing its financial sector. The central bank continues its banking reform agenda. The country's financial institutions are being pushed toward stronger standards. And international integration remains an important objective. +1. Those are genuine developments. But a genuine banking reform does not automatically create a $3.90 exchange rate. So if you are holding Iraqi dinars or simply following the RV story, don't focus only on the number. Focus on the process. Focus on the institutions. Focus on the policy. Focus on the evidence. Because if a $3.90 rate ever becomes real, the evidence will be impossible to ignore. The official exchange rate will change. Banks will respond. Financial systems will update. And the central bank will have to communicate the policy. Until that happens, the $3.90 rate belongs in the category of possible future scenarios, not confirmed Iraqi dinar news. And that is the real truth behind today's headline. Iraq is making real changes to its financial system. Those changes are worth watching. They could potentially create a stronger foundation for the country's future monetary system. But right now, there is no official CBI confirmation that the Iraqi dinar has been revalued to $3.90. So stay alert, stay informed, and most importantly, verify before believing. Because in the Iraqi dinar story, the biggest difference between a rumor and history is one thing.